Hello, Internet. It's Daniel Driving Dragons. Today, I'm hitting a quick reaction to OGGM, Tabletop News with the OGGM, actually by his own request. Now, I'm going to scroll through here and see what video I want to go ahead and take a gander at. Hopefully something that I can get some good back and forth on. Now, a lot of what he does, by his own admission, is read articles and kind of respond to them. So I'm going to try and find something that's going to be a little bit more game content, less back and forth up top things, like between different content creators and that sort of thing, unless it's a reaction about a specific topic. But let's take a look, see here. Intellectual property and tabletop role-playing games. Why is this a thing? Part 1. Rule 0. Why are we still arguing over this? Let's just do that. Well, that one's really short. Let's take a look. Some 5e stuff. Let's scroll back up here, see what we can find. Anime for 2023. Not going to be my thing there. I do like anime, but I don't like any new anime, really. Let's just have some fun. Let's go ahead and take a look at this here. Intellectual properties and tabletop role-playing games. Why is this the thing? Part 1.
Hello, 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 my lovelies. It is I, the guide to Midsummer Scream that is the OGGM. It is a disgustingly hazy, muggy Monday afternoon here at Site B as we are out walking, running errands. It's Monday, so we look at the tabletop role-playing game news and nonsense. And a story that seems to be sort of flittering through our filters is relations to a lot of people posting videos about intellectual properties or IP. So the past couple of days, we've seen a lot of videos come up from different sources in regards to our hobby and intellectual properties.
Okay, this video is from a couple weeks back, which would have put it right around the beginning of August of 2023. I'm not remembering, outside of some AI art stuff, a tremendous amount of actual just general IP discussion, but let's see what he has to say.
Or IPs. You'll hear that word come up. I use that word a lot, all the time. I use that word all the time. And sometimes I forget, maybe people don't know what that word means. And why are people talking about it? So let's answer those two questions first. Question number 1, what is an IP or intellectual property? And how does that relate to gaming? Well, in the broad sense, basically, an intellectual property is somebody else's shit.
That is pretty much the truth. It is somebody else's shit. I am going to put this out here. IP is one of those things that makes me laugh a lot. Particularly because there's more or less 3 corners of the good old political compass, 3 quadrants that tend to have a problem with it. And basically, a fun way to look at IP is if it's a liberal artist or a content creator talking about it, it's the most indolent thing in the world. And if you so much as mention something that sounds remotely like what they do, even if it's in a completely different genre, it's therein IP and you're violating everything. However, it's perfectly okay to steal it from everybody because IP is not real property. You get that really, really, really stupid an asinine meme where somebody will show you something and it's like a guy has a CD and then somebody comes along and takes that CD from him and they're like, this is theft. And then it's like, this is intellectual property theft. And it's the same picture, but instead of the guy having his CD taken, it's a guy handing him a copy of that CD. And of course, that completely leaves out the person who actually created what's on the CD and sells it. They created something. But to go briefly, there's 3 major categories of intellectual property. There are patents, trademarks, and copyrights. Copyright is at least in the United States, copyright is inherent. You don't have to apply for it. You don't have to register it. It helps if you do. It can help strengthen it and strengthen your claims in court. But you don't have to do anything to have a copyright. You just have to create something unique. Now, there's a lot of caveats and asterisks to it. Things like, for instance, if I draw a picture, that picture is my IP, but if you change it in certain ways or you use it in certain ways, it falls under fair use. That's one of those talk to a lawyer things. Then there's, such thing as what's called transformative work, et cetera, et cetera. Then you have a trademark. A trademark is more narrow focused and stronger than a copyright. It is something you do have to claim. You do have to register it with the Trademark and Patent Office. And what a trademark is essentially you are saying, I'm using this in a particular field. So for instance, I might have a trademark on a particular type of, a particular cat that does certain things in a particular medium. So for instance, I make a character, there's a great example, a character in a particular medium for, say, entertainment purposes or something. You can't use my trademark within that medium. You can only use that trademark. You can use it, but only in other things. This is how somebody can trademark like a phrase, a catchphrase or something of that nature. As long as you're using it in a different field or a different genre or a different way, you're not necessarily violating the trademark. And of course, a trademark can be on an image or an icon, or it can be on a slogan, or it can be on a particular way words are done or a font is done, or it can be on a name. For example, I own a trademark for a media company that operates within local politics in my area, and it's named after my area. Somebody else could have the same name as me as long as it's in a different medium and there's not a risk of confusion, but nobody can come into my area and call an organization the same thing as mine without violating my trademark. So unlike a copyright, it's more narrow focused in its genre or industry specific, and it does have to be registered, but it's a little bit stronger. And then of course there's patents, which patents mainly deal with like inventions or new ways of doing things, or something that generally relates more to a physical product, or like a lot of coding and stuff would be patent. Like I develop a code that generates AI art. I have a patent on the way that code is written, so you can't copy the exact same thing without violating my patent, should it be granted by the patent office. So there's the layman's crash course on IP. 90% of what's going to be dealing with publishing in the tabletop role-playing space is going to be copyright, though you do have some trademarks, such as the ampersand logo for Dungeons and Dragons. The name Dungeons and Dragons is going to be both copyright and trademarked. The piezo pie symbol guy, that's going to be a trademark. So let's go ahead and see what else he has to say.
That is iconically recognized as being associated with that person and their ship. Perfect example of an IP, Star Wars. Star Wars and Star Wars branding, and who can and cannot use the Star Wars brand. Perfect example of an intellectual property. McDonald's has got Star Wars collector glasses out. Is that okay? Yes, it is. Can I make a Star Wars collector glass? No, you cannot. But, and we'll get to that maybe if we have time. So when I refer to IP or intellectual property, basically it's something that's owned by somebody else and whether you can mess around with it or not. And we're going to use Star Wars because everybody fucking knows Star Wars, right? Or knows somebody who knows Star Wars. I've never met anybody who's not at least heard of it. So if you don't know what Star Wars is, let me know. I'll send you a link. All right. Second, why are people talking about it now? I don't know. Actually, there's no real reason for it unless they are dipping their toes into industry news and wondering whether that industry news will affect tabletop role-playing, or they're just mad about the strike and they need to lash out. Oh, those actors. And you know, all the people who are complaining about the actors being on strike now are the exact same people who are going to complain about how crappy television is in a year. So, yeah. All right. What people are probably talking about is either A, this whole artificial intelligence art writing thing and how it's going to affect our industry, our hobby going forward, you know, and the changes that Paizo and Wizards of the Coast and Drive-Thru are making in regards to AI and intellectual property. Or they're wondering if, because of the strike, does it affect an intellectual property? If nobody's writing for that property anymore, can they? Or they are in the middle of the industry pool and know that a lot of those contracts are coming up at the end of this year. The contractor's coming up at the beginning of 2024. Yes. Due to the magic of copyrights and intellectual properties and other stuff I could try and explain, but it would take too much time. A lot of those contracts are coming up in 2024, most notably Mickey Mouse. In 2024, Disney loses the rights to the image Mickey Mouse, which means there will be a small amount of time where you could make Mickey Mouse related product and not get into any trouble. Or more recently, Justin Lanasa just lost the rights to Starship, to TSR, to Dungeon Crawl, and to Star Frontiers. Which
I'm just going to butt in right here real quick. Everything that's being talked about here, which I know he's going to talk in more general overview terms, don't do anything that has to do with, especially with a well-established product, without talking to some attorneys first. And not just any attorneys. Don't go talk to your local guy who handled your divorce or who handled your custody battle or, did your real estate closing. That's a very, very specialized field of law, and you need to talk to an IP attorney before you get in trouble, especially when you start talking about trademark. Like, for instance, he mentioned the Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse's copyright may be looking at rolling into public domain, though I seriously doubt that'll happen because there's ways that they can retain that copyright and renew it. But their trademark is not going to go away. That trademark will get renewed. And you violate the trademark, they're still going to come down on you with a hammer. They're going to hit you with a hammer so big you're going to be smashed into oblivion. The TSR thing's a little different, and that's because the TSR is a trademark, not a copyright. Because the TSR logo stuff, it is not, you can't just copyright words as a general rule. You have to put them into some kind of expression. The name of a company isn't something that's going to qualify for copyright, but it is going to qualify for trademark, and trademark has a limited time. And it's funny because for whatever reason, like Wizards of the Coast were the first ones who did it. They let the trademark expire on they let the trademark expire on TSR, and I believe it was Ernie Gygax was waiting in the wings and snatched it up. And something happened where he went sideways with his business partners, et cetera, and they let the trademark lapse, and it got snatched up by somebody else who has it now. So that can happen, but you don't confuse the two. And even if Mickey Mouse's trademark is coming up, I guarantee you that Disney will have that worked out ahead of time. It's got nothing to do with writers or Writers Guild strikes or anything. Another thing here that I don't know if we'll touch on or not, but there's a very common thing in intellectual property type circles and this kind of thing. It's called a work for hire agreement. When I hire you to say draw art for me. And I'm talking specifically, like say I have a TTRPG, I'm putting out a monster manual and I want you to draw monsters for me. Those are what are typically called a work for hire agreement. You don't have a copyright to it as an artist, or at most you have a shared copyright to it, because the work for hire means I am hiring you to create something specific, and my company retains all the intellectual property for it, like all the rights, the copyrights, any trademarks, any use, usually some specific use and whatnot, is mine. That is the standard arrangement for that kind of thing. You do have exceptions. Like, for instance, when you go get a tattoo done, a lot of times when you get a tattoo done, you actually sign a thing that says that the work is actually the artist's copyright, not yours. That way you can't sue somebody for a tattoo, or you can't turn around and use a image that they put on your body as something without compensating them, because it's their work. But that's because that's the agreement that's signed. If Wizards of the Coast is hiring you to write something, create something, draw something, whatever, 100% guarantee you that's going to be a work for hire arrangement. So people being on strike is irrelevant. It's not theirs. Those copyrights and those trademarks and stuff are owned by those companies, and all the intellectual property stuff, it's not going to stop them from renewing a trademark. And all of that stuff, there's certain things where it's like, if you haven't used an IP in a certain amount of time, it falls out and you lose the protection. But none of that's going to be the length of time whatever this strike is. So it's not like there's going to be opportunities where we can all sit there and wait and count down the days and we can suddenly start writing Dritz Do'Urden books, or start doing our own Forgotten Realm stuff because, they didn't produce any new Forgotten Realm stuff in enough time. It doesn't work that way.
Means until somebody else buys them up, you could make product using the Star Frontiers name and not get into trouble. So one of those three things is what people are concerned about and why they're talking about it. So you've seen a lot of videos in the last couple of days. IP in games. Can you run an IP? Can you do the IP credit? Should you run an IP? What the fuck is an IP? Why are we talking about this? Well, hopefully I've answered the two questions. I will go more in depth into this if you guys want in another video. But this is just firstly just to explain to you what people mean when they say IP. And perfect example, Star Wars. Star Wars is an intellectual property. And second, why are people concerned about it? And they're probably concerned about it either because of the advent of artificial intelligence art and artificial intelligence writing, and the changes that many of the major corporations in our industry are making in regards to artificial arts, which is basically you cannot use artificial arts, but we can for our product. It's basically what Hasbro has said, Drive-Thru has said, and Paizo has said in regards to AR art and AI writing. Mind you, Hasbro is hiring people to do just the thing that they said they don't want people doing. Well, that's a separate topic. Or people are going, well, I know that this IP is soon going to be available in public domain until the company reclaims the rights. Can I do shit with it? Or they're asking, can I do shit with an IP and not get in trouble? And that is an entirely separate topic, which we will address if you want. But the general answer is no, you can't.
That is absolutely it. The general answer is no, you can't. I do want to address there's one thing in there, like I said, don't mess around with IP law. Just to give you an idea, the bargain basement level to get a trademark claim in front of a judge is like $30,000. That's not to get a decision. That's like to get it in front of a judge. And even if you have a really strong, legitimate work against, say, we'll just use the example, you say Disney, and you got a Mickey Mouse thing and they come after you, they will bury you financially before you ever get a decision, even if you are right. So, this is 100% talk to a very, very specific kind of lawyer territory. Another thing he mentioned, this is something I did a video about earlier, is AI art and AI writing. There's a reason why Paizo and Wizards say you can't use it for stuff that you submit to us, but we can use it. That is because intellectual property law surrounding AI generated creations is very, very specific. It's a very dicey topic right now. Now, from a copyright standpoint, I hate to break it to all the artists out there who try to say that it infringes copyright because of the way it learns. That really doesn't have any legs. Now, you could have the Supreme Court legislate from the bench and just make shit up. You could have Congress pass certain laws and stuff that go into this just because of a kind of a popular backlash to it. Because unlike, Luddites losing their jobs to machines back in the the Industrial Revolution, or even more recently, the whole learn to code thing where people are losing their jobs to automated systems and robotics. Like, there's still a people element to certain things, and there's something physically being done. So, and it's using a machine. They have trouble understanding that when it comes to AI. And their whole thing is, well, it uses pieces of everybody else. I hate to break it to you, but there's no way you can write a law that says AI art is not unique and of its own self, that does not also invalidate or make every single other artist's work infringing. The long and short of it is AI goes in and takes techniques, examples, lines, etc., of billions of artists, combines it all to make the artist of style and make the piece of work. It's the same thing a human does. All right. The same thing a human artist does. Whether they go to art school or do it naturally, they look at different pieces of art. They look at different things in the world. They look at the way certain things come together with shading and colors and line work, etc. And they use certain techniques. And none of those techniques are new. Those techniques have all been used by people all the way back into antiquity. The subject matter is stuff that's always been gone back to antiquity. And the thing is a human artist is only, quote unquote, stealing from a handful of artists, because the human brain, memory, a human being is only capable and only has enough time to learn to replicate so many techniques and styles over the course of their life and career. Whereas these AI search engines can literally be they can be 1,000 artists learning from 1,000,000 artists all at once and do it in 15 seconds. So they're doing the exact same thing that a human artist does. They're just doing it a lot faster, a lot more efficiently on a much broader scale. So if their stuff is illegal, so is yours. So hate to say that to you. That's the only logical progression of it. Take your emotions out of it. But where it does come up is trademark, because what's currently been put out for trademark, be it from the USPTO or from judges that have looked at different things, when it comes to trademark, and even to a certain extent, like in the ability to have a copyright. All right. So right now, anything made by AI, there's no copyright. There's no copyright on it at all. So to get a copyright on something that has been generated by AI, you have to show to the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office that there has been substantial transformation and input from the human artist. So, for instance, if I want a written piece of work to be protected by copyright, I have to show that I wrote it and I put together the framework and the plot and the characters, and I fed that to the AI to get the narrative or something. Or I fed it to the AI to clean it up, to get rid of certain narrative failures or something. Or if I draw a piece of artwork, I have to show that I didn't just have the AI go out and create the artwork. I have to show that I created something and then used AI just as a tool, either to get me something to start with or to clean something up or finish it. Otherwise, I can't protect it, and I have no rights to it. What Paizo, Wizards of the Coast, etc., are doing on that game, the reason it's okay if we use AI, but not if you use AI and submit something to us, is because their lawyers are telling them, look, what you don't want is to put out a new book, let's say we're going to put out a new campaign setting, and we've got a character that's on the cover of this campaign setting that's cool and super unique, and we're going to trademark him because he gets super popular. And then we find out that the artist who sent him to us just plugged in some cool stuff into an AI generator and gave it to us, and we can't copyright or trademark. We cannot copyright and probably can't even trademark this image. We certainly can't copyright it because it doesn't fit. And now all of a sudden you got something super popular who's your marquee character for your new campaign setting, and everybody can just do whatever the hell they want to with it because the person you hired or the person who submitted it to you didn't do enough work to generate IP protection. So if I'm Paizo or if I'm Wizards of the Coast, I'm going to say I'm only going to allow AI generated content if I know for a fact that we started with enough human generated content for me to have a reasonable chance at getting that IP protection. That's the reason behind that.
Cannot make a Fast and the Furious role-playing game without getting into some type of trouble. But there is a little wiggle room. Anyways, if that's a topic you want to talk about, let me know. If you never want to hear me talk about intellectual property ever again, let me know. Till next time, I'm the OG GM on this hazy day. I hate muggy. I know you guys hear me say it 1,000 times, but I hate weather. And of all the weathers I hate, this is the weather I hate the most. I hate humidity. I hate muggy. I hate fog. Pick a lane. Pick a lane, weather. Because it just makes my head and my allergies feel like crap. You don't care. Talk to you later. Stay safe.
Well, there we go. And to be perfectly honest, like I said, it's just kind of a general overview. I think I might actually go ahead and do a second reaction here in a second. It seems like he's got a safety tools video that actually, and he streamed that just a day ago. So I guess I might go ahead and pop in on that and take a look at it and do some reactions to it. But this is what I got. There wasn't really a lot to agree or disagree with there. Just kind of a basic overview of some IP stuff. But he does bring up that interesting thing where I'm wondering what he's thinking about on it with the whole Paizo and Wizards. We can use AI, but you can't. But that's the answer to that. That is a purely legal question where it just comes down to the fact that you got a company that relies on intellectual property rights and in particular copyright and trademark protection to make their money and to maximize the profit from their product for their shareholders. And that doesn't matter if it's a company like Paizo or a company like Wizards of the Coast or a company like Chaosium. You've got to have a level of that protection. And with the way they're making rulings on AI generated anything right now, you can't have anybody who is not 100% in-house and overseen by your company's legal department using any AI. Because the last thing you want to do, like I said, is have something that goes massively super popular and is fantastic and wonderful, and you got your work for hire agreement, so they're your IP and you're ready to rock and roll. And the next thing you know, you can't even protect it because it turns out that jackwagon just plugged everything into ChatGTP to generate this campaign setting, or took a piece of just literally put some prompts into an AI art generator and made this character. Now your figurehead is no longer protected. So that's really just a matter of protection, and is not anything nefarious in this case. So that's what I got to say on that. Like, share, and subscribe. And I'm going to go ahead and put together this next reaction, and then I'm going to do some more original content here in this coming week. See you guys next time.